Welcome to the next episode of A King to a Prince, the Royal Code. Look at us, first time right here in person doing it. What's going on,
What's up, man?
So how you doing?
I'm good. I've been, trying to just like work through some of the like new positions that I've been working in. Been working with a lot of new artists when it comes to express. So, just trying to set up a few things in motion. So I think I'm looking for you. I heard you've been in a couple new movies.
Yeah, we're working on Vindictive 2. Vindictive 1 is already on Tubi, so we're in the process of finishing Vindictive 2. It's been going cool, man. It's real intense. The role that I'm playing he's just such an intense type of character, and it's a lot of drama, filled action, and it's crazy. It brings it out of me. Each character that I play, I try to bring something out on each of them. This one is bringing out an even more darker side, so I like that. You know what I mean? And,
do you think you start to like adapt some of the like personalities or character traits that some of these
with my own self?
Yeah.
There's similarities in each one of the characters that I play. The biggest thing I notice, except the one that was in Family Over Everything, Gunzo, he was a boss, but he was real grimy.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And I'm not grimy at that point. Like, we've all had our grimy ways, especially, coming from like different environments that we lived in and things like that. But he is the type that will rob you, not necessarily help you look for it, but will make you pay him back for him robbing you. So he was like that. And then, one of the main phrases in Family Over Everything was like, you rob somebody that you just hooked up, where they do that at? You know what I mean? And it's true. It's he was grimy in that. But what I do notice about the majority of the characters that I play, that's the similarity with me, is the loyalty in a sense to his people. And that type, if you hurt somebody that's close to me that I love, I'm going to get back at you. So that's where a lot of the similarities are. And, each role, I know for me, you try to find that balance of where they're relatable to yourself. And I think in that sense, it makes it more relatable to somebody else. But then, there's characters, there's things that roles and characters that people play that have no similarities to them. They're just playing that part.
You think that would be easier for you, or you find it easier to be like some of these characters that kind of like fit who you could be in a sense? Like
that a little bit. That a little bit.
Because you wouldn't be able to like kind of like jump and play like a cop or something like that.
I played a crooked cop in Crime City Diaries.
That's
I
did
play a crooked cop.
But even then, you were still kind of like.
But even then, you still have to have.
We knew you was the crooked cop.
Yeah, exactly. You gotta have that, because I don't think I could play that role. I don't think there's, I see there's roles when it comes to people that, mess with little kids. I couldn't play a role like
bring
that.
yourself into that.
Yeah, because you have to go somewhere dark, like
to
when
understand them.
Exactly, like when you look at the legend, the late great Heath Ledger, when he played the role of the Joker. He had to get therapy after that, and he still ended up, killing himself. And because I guess, and I don't know if it was necessarily, I don't want to say it was necessarily that role, but that was the last role that I remember before he ended up dying.
Yeah.
And it took him to a dark place, and then I heard stories that Michael B. Jordan was saying when he played Killmonger, he had to separate himself from the world and seclude himself from family and everyone, because he had to go somewhere to play this role. And sometimes you have to go even deeper in yourself and then go to a dark place.
Touch that psyche.
Because you want to make that role come alive. It's just like people that play biops, like when Denzel Washington played Malcolm X, when the late great Chadwick Boseman, he ended up playing James Brown. He ended up playing Jackie Robinson. Will Smith
Jackie Robinson movie,
playing Muhammad Ali. You know, you go through everything. Like I know Will Smith was saying he had to learn, you know, about the nation, and then he had to go through intense boxing training because you want this role, you want to embody this role so well, because to me, you're not looking at it from the aspect of how the fans are going to perceive it. You got to think about their family. You got to think about their kids. You got to think about that legacy.
That person.
You don't want to just take a role just because it's like, oh, I'm getting to play this role, I'm going to be famous, and then you do such a bad job on it, you're like kind of discrediting who that person was, you know. So I give a lot of credit to, because when Denzel Washington, you know, I've heard of Malcolm X, I've known about his books, I've known about his life, but when I actually saw Malcolm X, the X, when not DMX, excuse my language, when Denzel Washington played it, I felt I knew who Malcolm X was even more by watching Denzel play it.
Okay,
you know?
I see what you're saying. Yeah. I actually felt that way about like the Biggie movie, because like, you know, I'm a little bit younger.
Yeah.
Then, you know, Biggie, I'm pretty sure he died like probably a year before I was even born.
Yeah.
So getting to see like somebody act out maybe like some of the stories that he would tell throughout his songs, I'm getting to see like, oh, the environment in Brooklyn he grew up. I got to understand it a lot more. It made me appreciate his music.
Exactly.
Same thing with the NWA movie, like seeing how things were, how Easy and Ice Cube were really coming up together, the things Dr. Dre was doing, like who they was working with, you know, the type of beef that they was having with the police, with themselves, like all I got to understand it. I got to like really feel like I was there, even though this was a movie that came out 20 years after they like split apart. So it was like, it's interesting to see like how like these actors can really like grab hold of the audience and get them to dive deeper into a story.
That story,
crazy.
You know, because when you look at and we were talking about Chadwick when he played James Brown, and he was playing this role. There was one scene when James Brown had such like this legendary walk, whether it was off stage or on stage. And there was this one scene when Chadwick was walking away and the lights were like, it was shining on him. It looked like James Brown, like that walk. And it was like, wow, he embodied this role so well that when you can make a reaction, you know, because one thing I know about certain roles that I've played that you can see in these films that's out on Tubi, my character is the character that eventually people like, I don't like this guy because of what he did. Oh, he took out, you know, and No Such Thing as Loyalty 2 and 3, I took out one of the women. I took her out. And it was like, she was such a sweetheart. And I had people coming up to me like, yo, I don't like you. You killed that girl. You know, that, for me, that let me know, boom, I did my part. Because if I make you not like this character, if he's supposed to be that character that you don't like, and I make you not like him, then I did my job.
I know what you mean. Because there's some actors like that, I feel that same way. The dude they call him, I don't want to mess with his name, they call him like the evil Dave Chappelle.
Okay.
How he look, and it's just like, yo, every time I see him in a movie or what's the dude that be in all the Tyler Perry movies, the light skinned dude, Michael Ealy.
Yeah.
Like once I see, I know he's gonna be that
guy,
suspect boyfriend. That,
you know,
I hate that.
Like,
I don't want to see him nowhere around me, my family, none of that. But it's like he done sold that role so well, and then I also see him in he was in Power playing like a crooked cop, like completely different. But I'm already like, hey, I know what kind of dude he's playing. It's crazy to see. Like,
you know,
do you ever feel like or is there anybody that you would like to do like a buyout for? Like you feel like you could?
Yeah, honestly, I would love, if there is, I would love to do the DMX buyout.
I can see that. I would
love to do that. I really would. And I would be willing to go through whatever it takes in that sense, because I'm one of those ones, I'm a fan first. True. So I know his music, I know his lyrics, but I want to go through the sense of the ups and downs that he went through. I also want to go through becoming even more, you know, because I'm faithful, I'm spiritual. I want to go to where that point that he did. You know what I mean? And I
he doesn't have a buy-up, right?
Nah,
And I think
I know they were talking about it. And then the guy Michael K. Williams, who ended up dying, also he would have been a great role.
I can see that.
Yeah, he would have been a great person to play that.
He was another great actor too.
Yes, he was. He was.
That you always see him, like you kind of know what kind of vibe he's gonna get off in the movie.
Exactly. So I would love to play that. I would also love to play. I haven't played like a loving role, whether it be like a father or a brother. I would like to play roles like that. I like the roles that I've been playing in these Tubi movies because with the guy Tyrone Tizak Jackson, what Tiz gives you is every character. So when you have movies like that, somebody has to be the bad guy.
Yeah.
So if that means I get to be that bad guy, I'm okay with that too. You know what I mean? Because you can have goons, you can have this, but it's always just that one person that's even willing to go even further. Then I'm okay with that too, because then it also gives me that opportunity to become that character, create that character how I want it to be, and then just make it come alive. You know what I mean? So I enjoy that also. I enjoy, and what I like about him and, a few other directors that I've worked with, they don't allow limitations. They allow me, they tell me how they want in their mind, what they envision, but they allow me to bring it to life.
Okay.
They're not
freedom to
they don't try to stifle you like, well, no, I want you to say it like this and move like this, because then that's not authentic.
Yeah, you might as well be out there getting somebody to do it exactly that way.
It becomes
they get you as
robotic.
an actor because of the charisma that you bring on camera, that other additives that you can bring. So they want to see like you bring personality to this character. So that's important to have that experience from a director and that you're working with like that. That's cool.
It's that freedom. So let me ask you this, because I know we're talking about like, that freedom and authenticity and things like that. How do you feel about relationships and this day and age, in the sense because everything is so, social media driven, and not necessarily just social media, but things are, it's more necessarily of like trending. It's, as far as posting this
and that perception
things like that. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I think like when it comes to relationships, you always gonna have those people that need to show you a side of their relationship to make you think that it's this one way, show you that they're this perfect couple, they do dates and they do that, but there's also, those could be those same people that could be in abusive relationships, that could be in these like toxic relationships where they like speaking to each other badly, but at the end of the day, you don't really know these people, so you don't really know the dynamics of their relationship. You don't know like the levels that they have went to find peace in their relationships. You don't know that maybe the levels of disrespect that they had to deal with in previous relationships. So maybe male or female, they could think this is all they deserve. And when you seeing that thing on social media, like, oh, if your man does this, your wife does this, they love you, they respect you, but it's like they're not seeing all the things that you had to deal with. So they think like, oh, all right, this is what I deserve because they doing these like minimalistic things that are just basic level of respect. But I'm thinking this is all I deserve because this is what social media is showing.
Exactly.
So it's like if you don't have that aspect, I was actually seeing something the other day that was saying like a lot of people that grew up with either both of their parents or seeing one of their parents in like a loving relationship is going to be beneficial to them in the future in their relationships because they actually seen how a healthy dynamic works.
Exactly.
And like if you've never seen that, like prior to like living with you and living with my stepmom, it was like I didn't really see what a healthy relationship looked like. I didn't really see what a long-lasting marriage looked like. I've seen it from my aunts and uncles that are distant, but I'm not seeing it like in my household. So getting to see it in my household is important to me because like, all right, I know how to treat a woman. I know how I'm supposed to be the man of the house. Like, anyone can say like, oh, you're the man of the house, but if you don't know what that entails, you don't know what that comes with in terms of caring for someone else, protecting someone else, like protecting their emotions, their feelings, and making sure that they have a safe haven to come to from the world. So if you don't understand what that really means, it's just words.
Exactly, and it's true, like what you were saying, and that goes down to the perception is everything. And you see with social media and I'm not blaming social media because social media is beneficial for all, but what I'm saying is you see where people are looking for so much validation, and it's like what you said, oh, if your man does this, then that means they love you. And you made a good point because I remember I was watching this film, and on the podcast, the C&J Juice from the Q's podcast, we were talking about, I was watching this documentary, and it was called Dangerous Silence, and it was about people that were in toxic and abusive relationships. And a few of the women made it out of their relationships, and a lot of them didn't. But they were talking about growing up in households where they actually got to see the abuse, mostly from the women. They were seeing the abuse from the fathers or the male figures that were in the house, hitting on the mothers.
Right.
And a lot of them said they grew up in that. They saw, their grandfathers, and some of their grandfathers were actual pastors. When you hear, okay, well, they're a pastor, that's not their personality, but you'd be surprised. And that's not saying all, but there is some that's like that. Some that were married to police, and they were getting beat.
Yeah.
So they took that as, that's what love is. If this person is not yelling at me or hitting on me, then they really don't love me, and a lot of them started going to the point to where they were making excuses. Well, I pushed his button, or he was having a bad day, and I kept going asking so many questions, and it just took it to that point. And it's like, no, that's not a structured household. But because they were brought up in that, they figured, well, that's what it is. That's the blueprint of what I was taught and I got to see growing up, of what a true relationship is, and that's love. And then they end up getting with a person like that, and you could see, because, I look at relationships today compared to when I was growing up, a lot of relationships you see nowadays, it's all through, social media. You don't even have that one-on-one communication, that contact of calling somebody. I'm not saying everybody does that, but a lot of people, what's your IG? What's your, let me DM you, where before, let me text you and then get your phone number, because you could start off with the text, or it's the old school way, you pick up the phone and you talk to that person, because right then you cutting out all the BS.
Yeah.
You're deciding, okay, this is somebody that I want to continue talking to, or I see where this is going to go, and if you're just going to go there just to go there for whether, even if it's just sexual purpose, but at least that was already established from the gate.
Exactly.
But you really don't know a person when you're talking through them through social media or even text, because you honestly don't know if you're talking to that person. You could be talking to their friends. I could be somebody's right there. It's like, everybody has, so it's just one of those things. You see the difference now, and some are good, some are bad, and like you said, we're just looking at, we don't even know that person. We're only looking at one aspect of this relationship, because behind closed doors, that person could be getting hit going through toxic relationship, cheating, lying, abuse, all that. But then from the, outside looking in, it's like, that's a perfect
She get flowers every week.
That means that he's doing everything. And now us, we're like, we got to step our game up.
And then that's another aspect to it. It's like, you could be these people that are seeing the negative side of the relationship, the abuse, but you could also be one of these young teenagers, male or female, seeing oh, this is how a relationship's supposed to be. I'm supposed to be going out on dates. I'm supposed to be having a house by 21. I'm supposed to be having kids. It's like, that's not real life.
That's not sense of reality.
It's like, that's not how most of your relationships aren't going to be as clear cut as you get together, you get married, and have kids. It's like, everybody would like for that to happen in that way.
But it doesn't always work.
You gotta go through heartbreak. I remember you telling me at 14, 15, you was like, you're going to go through a couple of heartbreaks before you really understand what love is.
Exactly.
And for you to be able to love how you really are supposed to, you got to go through that heartbreak. And then when you think you're done, you got another heartbreak to go through.
Exactly.
So it's like, those are the things you got to understand when you are dating, trying to find someone to marry, to
you're compatible with,
even have a family. Because everybody
Exactly.
don't maybe necessarily agree with marriage, but even if you're trying to build a family with someone, you gotta have an understanding of who they are. And that's why I think people be having kids and like situations with people, they don't really know these people. They don't
thinking that's gonna keep them, or that's gonna
like
make
them.
them, or they don't like them.
Man,
Yeah,
that's a big part. It's like I'm one of those people. I make sure my girlfriend like me every day, because I got. If you don't like me, like
What's
love
the
is like
use?
always enough. Like
I would always say this. Yes, if I see, back then before I was married, if I saw a woman that I wanted to pursue, of course, I would let it be known of my interest. She may not have the time right now, and I may have to see her again. So it's sometimes that old saying, you gotta woo them. You may have to with some sex, but you can know from the first minute of that interaction if this person likes you. If a person is just busy and they'll stop and talk, but they have to go, but okay, eventually I may see this person again, then that's basically saying that's an open opportunity for you to have a different conversation with this person. But if I'm trying to converse with a woman and she's giving me the cold shoulder, then right then and there I already know she doesn't like me. She's not feeling me. So I'm not going to like somebody who doesn't like me. I'm not going to fill out for somebody who's not feeling me. Life goes on. You just move on. And that's male and female. And I think every young man to become a man has to go through some type of heartbreak. Every young woman that becomes an older woman has to go through some type of heartbreak too, because if you don't know and if you didn't experience it, when that time comes around, you fall head first for that person, and then they break your heart. Some people don't bounce back from that.
never.
Some people actually take it to the point to where they go and do harm to themselves or somebody else
And that's even more sad, because it's like you never know that on the other end that person could just not have the capacity to deal with a relationship.
Exactly.
You maybe not being having the emotional maturity to understand just that. Like they can't be in a relationship right now.
Yeah, and some people just can't deal with that. So, that was a good point. So yeah, man, that was a good, discussion, especially on relationships. And again, man, like, please, we want you guys not only to subscribe, but to give feedback, and this is not only just coming from a father and son perspective, it's parents, there's mothers and daughters that can, if you want to hear us talk about things from a male perspective to women, please, let us know. So
yeah, man, anything that y'all want to hear, any type of topics, discussions, questions that y'all want us to have, like, give us that opportunity to like speak to y'all about it, man, because we want to give that insight that we can. But this is the Prince.
This is the King. This is the Royal Code.